popular actress, Nse Ikpe Etim talks about her passion, marriage and career. Before you started acting professionally, were you not afraid of the Genevieves and Onodalas? Everyone is cautious when they enter into a new world, but I wouldn't go so far as to use the word afraid. There is the initial trepidation, but that comes more out of a worry of not succeeding as opposed to a fear of the competition. I have a deep respect for everyone who paved the way for the rest of us. You cannot take anything away from Genevieve or Onodala, they are fantastic actresses. What stands you out among other actresses? Well, I think my fans will be more suited to answer this particular question. I do not get a chance to watch a lot of my work, so at best, I can only guess. What do you miss most about being not popular? I miss being anonymous. I miss not having to be so guarded. Fame is a heavy cross. Yes, the perks make it pleasurable, but the demands on you and the loss of privacy are sometimes difficult to live with. However, I chose this career, so I deal with the consequences, good or bad. What was your first movie role and how did you get it? My first movie was called Venom of Justice. It was right after I graduated from the university. It was such a long time ago, and I can hardly remember the details of how I got it. But I do know that I was very excited to be acting. This was of course before my very long hiatus. You worked in a radio station, bank and clothing store. At what point in your life did acting find you? I actually dabbled into acting before I went into broadcasting, banking or retailing. My stint was very short, it was right after I graduated from the university. Most people assume Reloaded was my first movie, but it was in fact my comeback. I got that role when MMI Song insisted I had to play the character, Omos. I did not want to at first, and after a whole lot of coercing and yanking my chain, I caved in. Look where it got me, smiles. How did growing up shape you to be the person you have become? Our past has a great deal to do with our present and future. The values I hold dear, I imbibed them as a child and young lady. I'm the eldest child, so I grew up with a fair deal of responsibility placed on my shoulders early on. I think this helped keep me grounded. What is your definition of style? Style is simply being comfortable in your own skin. Tell us, how are you coping as a wife and as an actress? Women have been working and married for several years now. It can be challenging, especially when it comes to time management, but the important thing is to have a firm grip on your priorities. I know what is important to me and I always strive to keep that in focus. What were the most challenging periods of your growing up years? Aside losing my dad, growing up was fairly uneventful. You said your mom was your mentor. What are those things that make you always remember her? My mother is the strongest woman I know. She was a rock for my siblings and I. She still is. She was always there for us, no matter the situation. You knew you could always run to Mom. As an actress, one can be so caught up with work. What are your favorite relaxing spots? I don't really go out. My schedule doesn't give me a lot of downtime. So, when I do get some time off, I spend it with family, sleeping or reading a good book. You seem to be devouring your marriage. What has been the most romantic gesture from your husband? That's because I married my best friend. There are many romantic gestures to pick from. Perhaps, one day, I'll write a book and tell it all. But until then, it's my secret. You once said your husband is the definition of true love. What is true love? Being with someone or people who love you completely and never judge you. That is true love. There is a Bible passage that deals extensively with the subject of love. True love is all that and more. Between Ghanaian actors and Nigerian actors, who would you describe as more romantic in movies? I think the romance an actor portrays depends on the character they're playing or the request of the director. I doubt it has anything to do with the country that an actor is from. Acting is universal and anyone can play a romantic role. What is the inspiration behind your signature hairdo? I had experimented with all sorts. At one point I was blonde. Nothing really. I guess I just decided that if the hair I was born with was good enough for my ancestors, then I might as well give it a try. I do sport weaves when the roles call for it, but when I'm Nse, this is the hair I'm comfortable with. How much would it take to have you shave your hair for a movie role? There are implements and fashion accessories that mimic a shaved head very well. I would rather use that than shave my hair. In Hollywood, very rarely do you hear that an actor had to go bald to pull off a look. How does your hubby feel when you kiss other actors in movies? Same way I imagine every spouse who is married to an actor should feel. But he understands that this is my job, and if a script calls for kissing, then it is work. However, there are different ways to show affection. You must not lock lips to show your feelings for a loved one. Skilled actors can show this without resorting to kissing. Are you getting fulfilled as an actress? Yes, I am. I have been blessed, and I'm thankful for every day I have spent chasing this dream. Of course, there are challenges, but nothing good comes easy. Besides acting, what else do you do? Is that not enough? Bankers work as bankers and engineers work as engineers. It is a full-time job, and sometimes it is even more demanding than a 9-to-5 job. You are no doubt good-looking, young and homely, and cannot avoid male fans. Who has been the most adamant male fan you have ever had? And what was the experience with him? Thank you for these lovely compliments. I think I've been lucky in the crazy fan department. My fans are very respectful of my space and marital status. I don't have any horror stories to share. At what point in your life would you rest on your oars as an actress? When I'm dead, acting for me is like breathing. I'm most alive when I'm pursuing my passion, which is acting. If I were to quit doing this, then it would be for very strong reasons. What is your greatest indulgence? If I said my husband, would that be allowed? I don't have an addictive personality, so there really isn't anything that I indulge in regularly. What is that thing that would make you spend millions of naira? It wouldn't be a thing, it would have to be a person. The woman in the movie, Mr. and Mrs. was passion-driven and pained. Could it have been an experience earlier in life? I am a passionate person, friends and family can attest to this. But I have only been married once, so it wasn't the result of any early experience. For that role, I tried to imagine myself as a woman who loved her husband immensely, and wanted to fight for her marriage. And as soon I found that reserve, it was a question of tapping into it. Funniest thing you have read in the news about you? This is a tricky question. Yes. There have been so many, but I don't pay much attention to what is in circulation about me. You love to cook, don't you think you should pursue that passion too? I will. There are plans in the works to explore this part of me publicly. but as soon as I have something concrete, you will be the first to know.